Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the TexAgs High School Football Show, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy has all your high school football road trip needs this season. Get the right gear for the long season with free curbside pickup today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. All right, week 3 of the TexAgs High School Football Show. I'm Ryan Brauninger, joined as always by Mr. Jason Howell, and we have a lot of stuff to get into in this week's episode. I mean, what a weekend in Texas high school football. There's some big-time matchups both in Houston and Dallas, even in the Hill Country, where you saw a very much rapidly improving Cibolo Steel team knock off Lake Travis for their second big win in a row. Austin Westlake outlast Converse Judson, really pulls away from Converse Judson. So even some big games there in the Central Texas region. But, Jason, we'll start, as we always do, with what happened, what you saw last week, what'd you like there in Dallas-Fort Worth?
Well, I started the weekend off on Thursday night with the little Mesquite Horn Arlington Bowie action. Mesquite Horn, moved to 2-0 on the season, 34-21 win. Really interesting game. Both teams were working with second string quarterbacks or backup quarterbacks throughout the game for a multitude of reasons, but I look for both of those teams to end up being pretty solid programs. 2025 offensive lineman Lamont Rogers was kind of my main focus of going out there. He's every bit of 6'6", 300 pounds, athletic, flexible, lacks some strength and, it needs some fine tuning on the more technical aspects of the game. But man, you can see the potential there. He's also a big basketball player there at Horn, and he's going to be fun to watch. Picked up a Baylor offer. I think it was on Friday or Saturday after the game. And, he's going to be a guy that's reeling in the offers early and often. Also really liked Chris Don, Arkansas State commit, just really electric. He's a guy that's a threat for a touchdown every time he touches the ball. 2025 running back Titus Muse showed some real flashes, had a couple really big runs and showed some explosiveness through the hole. Edge Notam Armstrong had a pick 6 early in the game to really help Mesquite Horn separate there. He's a guy a little bit undersized as a defensive end, but he brings a lot of twitch and strength off the edge. Going to be a guy that sees some FBS looks. And in the 2024 class for Bowie, Chris Wakoma is a guy that I really, really thought showed a lot. He lined up on Chris Don in the slot, and he handled some business there. Chris Don's a little short guy that's really known for his quickness, and Wakoma's more of a physical safety. And watching him line up in the slot and get some one-on-one coverage with Don at times and more than hold his own was very impressive. Showed a lot of range there. Then on Friday night, went out to Arlington Martin. So Martin beat up on Cedar Hill, get out to a 44-6 win there. Jovian Toviano did his thing playing some safety and cornerback, had a fumble recovery, a pick 6, returned it. I don't know how far it was, but it looked like he grabbed it in the end zone and returned it all the way. Just did a great job throughout the game. Makai Santa is a guy that offensive lineman that A&M's been on that he really showed a lot he's very controlled and dominating at the same time, if you know what I mean. Just he's very technically sound, plays with great leverage, keeps that good base underneath him at all times, and he's athletic enough to get out and pull around. Does a lot of really good things there. And then on Saturday, I had a doubleheader with Duncanville, Orlando Jones, and DeSoto, Baltimore St. Francis. Duncanville gets the 44-21 win over Jones. They really blew it open in the third quarter. Colin Simmons, edge defender, was incredibly disruptive. Jones didn't really have an answer for him, but had a a tackle for loss, a sack, and was just constantly in the backfield. And 2025 to Corey Moore, he's a guy that he can play inside or outside. He's got the quickness to be that slot, but he showed a lot of physicality in his game, as well as a tremendous catch radius and route runner he is. But he had some monster blocks there to spring Caden Durham for a couple big gains, and really played well. And DeSoto fell to St. Francis 47-7. It was a rough night for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Texas commit Jonte Cook was held to only 2 receptions, had their first score on the first drive, and that was pretty much it. Texas A&M target 2025 running back DeAndre Ryden, nice flashes. Was DeSoto's leading rusher. Had some ball security issues, but it was a St. Francis show with running backs Darrell Robinson, Dwan Williams slicing and dicing that DeSoto defense. And Ryan Manning, I think he had 3 receptions for 3 touchdowns and 87 yards on the night. So it was a big night for St. Francis, and DeSoto that may be the toughest team they see all year.
Well, I was dodging weather all week in Houston. Started on Thursday at Spring Westfield against Fort Bend Hightower, and I'm telling you what, man, we'll get into our matchups for next week here shortly, but Spring Westfield is very good. P.J. Hatter, the quarterback, he was at Klein Oak. Now he's at Spring Westfield. Super talented kid. Pretty incredible to me that his offer list hasn't grown after just these first 2 weeks, because full control of that offense. It's up-tempo. The offensive coordinator, Coach Hill, was the same guy that was at St. Pius with Grant Gunnell and Chase Lane and Boobie Curry and all those guys, and put up video game numbers at St. Pius, and now is doing it there at Spring Westfield. Senior receiver Dejan Palomo had 4 touchdowns. I think P.J. Hatter had 5 touchdowns. I mean, they just blew the doors off of Fort Bend Hightower. The final score was 52-29, but Fort Bend Hightower scored 3 times in the fourth quarter, kind of against the Spring Westfield backups. But super, super impressive team. 2024 offensive lineman there at Spring Westfield, Raekwon Bell, was very good, very solid, very sound. Got some nice offers there early on. I think Houston is probably the early leader, and I think that would be a big one for Dana Holgerson to keep there in the city.
No doubt.
And just like when you look at Spring Westfield, there's just a lot of really good high school football players. And they got a 2024 defensive tackle, Xavier McCrary, who's kind of on the up and up. They've got a 2025 linebacker that's pretty impressive. But on the whole, as the group, and also 2024 running back, I don't want to leave him out, Taji Atkins, who's starting to, his offer list is starting to grow as well, kind of a speed merchant there in the backfield. They play fast. They put a ton of pressure on defenses, and they score a lot of points. So really impressive win there over a talented Fort Bend Hightower team. Cornelius Anthony has a lot of talent down there in Missouri City. But overall, I mean, just the functionality of the teams, Spring Westfield was operating at a different level of efficiency all night on both sides of the ball. And they've also got a kicker there, Jonathan Demas, the first time I'd seen him, was good from like 57, 58 in pregame. All of his kickoffs go through the back of the end zone. So, in high school football, what kind of weapon a really good kicker can be and win you games. Then on Friday, I went down to Katy to check. The biggest game in the city of Houston last week was Atascocita versus Katy. A little bit of a weather delay, supposed to kick at 6, didn't start till 7:30. But, man, this was an absolute banger. I mean, what a fantastic football game. Both teams going back and forth. The Atascocita quarterback, Zion Brown, would make a huge play in the passing game, and then Torrey Blaylock would rip off a big run, and Atascocita would score. Well, then here comes Katy in that power offense play action game with quarterback Caleb Koger, and then running back Mississippi State commit Seth Davis, and making plays down the field to like just a wide variety of like receivers. Like Katy, for as run oriented as they are, they rotate their receivers. So they've got so many kids ready to play, and it comes down to it's 28-28 with about a minute to go, and Katy's facing a 3rd and 4, and you're going, man, if Atascocita had a little bit of momentum, if they can get a stop, they get off the field here, they get the ball back with a little bit less than a minute and some timeouts, they may have a chance to pull this upset. And then Seth Davis takes a handoff, tiptoes the sideline, cuts back inside, and goes 57 yards to the house to give the Tigers the lead. And then Atascocita got the ball back, and by that time, that large crowd, that raucous crowd there at Legacy Stadium was all on the defense's back, and the Tigers forced a 3-and-out to win the game. So, but I mean, what a just incredible atmosphere for Texas high school football. I love covering games at Legacy Stadium, not only because it's a beautiful facility, but because the people at KDISD Athletics are so great to you. But that was worth the trip, man. That was a ton of fun, and I think both teams really made a great account of themselves. And frustrating night for Coach Stump's group at Atascocita because you lose and you've never beaten Katy. Here's a stat for you, Jason. In the last 86 home games, Katy is 84-2. That's a pretty wild statistic there. So
I gotta ask you though, how many of those games did they start a freshman defensive end?
That's true. So the last freshman that I can remember starting at Katy was safety Colin Wilder. Ended up going to I think Wisconsin and had a great career at Wisconsin and finished at U of H.
Yeah, I was gonna say he transferred to U of H, right?
But they do have, and it's a family of kids, and there's two of them are freshmen on varsity. One of them's name is I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Jeremy Allo Perry, and then the defensive end who started, his name is Jimmy Allo Suliafu, and he is 6'5" 250, 240 pounds. Got an offer from UTSA the week before. He's going to have every offer across the state, across the country, and probably in short order. Really, really impressive physical specimen. Like, it would be enough to just say that Katy is starting a freshman on defense. That'd be enough, right? He's going to be really good. But then he very much backed it up with his size in the way that he played. So if you're a recruiting nut like Jason and I are, that's a name that you put on your list and from a very early age, and he will be not only one of the more highly recruited kids in Houston, but in the state. So as we move along here to this slate of week 3, actually, let's go across the state for a couple of some scores. I mentioned that Austin Westlake score, but there was one actually that happened in a smaller classification down in Southeast Texas. West Orange Stark 38, Little Cypress Mauriceville 32. In the they call it the Orange Bowl, the Fruit City Bowl, whatever you want to call it. But the trajectory, so that game used to be a blowout every year for over 20 years, right? West Orange Stark just blew the doors off of LCM. With Eric Peavy there now at LCM, the script is sort of flipping. And new head coach Hiawatha Hickman at West Orange Stark, really talented Mustangs team. They're going to have a chance at that 4A Division II state championship down the road. But they hang on and they get the win. But, man, it's pretty incredible the job that Coach Peavy has done there at LCM. That was I did want to get to that one as a small school game that stood out to me. But what else around the Metroplex did you kind of catch your eye?
Well, I tell you what, Geyer handed Aledo a 44-10 loss there. Stephenville.
When's the last time Aledo lost 2 in a row?
Well, I was gonna say I got a quick hot take there, and I just said that Stephenville score. Lancaster also top South Oak Cliff 21-3. You got Aledo and Sock 0-2 to start the season.
Yeah,
and I got a feeling you're gonna hear plenty about those two teams. Before it's all said and done, I look for both of those teams to figure it out and be tough outs come playoff time. If not, make their way back to state championship games. But it's been a long time for Aledo being 0-2 to start the season.
Pretty wild.
But I mean, they haven't they've taken on all comers. They're not starting off with some cupcakes there.
And I did want to say this, like across the state, I think I have, at least in Houston and some, like I don't pay attention as closely to Dallas as you do, obviously, but I'm seeing more of these big time matchups across the state in the non-district. I think the coaches are going out and doing that. There's clearly an agenda to do this, to get yourselves ready for later in the year. But I love it. I love these. We've seen some huge matchups in the non-district.
And for South Oak Cliff, they've always done it that way. And they knew going into the season, they had to see what they had at quarterback, and it's it's good to get battle tested, because their district, it's not full of competitive playoff teams, and so they're gonna need to get tested and figure out some of their holes before they hit the playoffs, or it's gonna be bad news at the end of the season. So, but got to hit this Argyle 56-49 win over Lucas Lovejoy. But the story of the night was freaking Kyle Parker, LSU commit, going for like 340 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yep. I mean, just incredible night for him and both offenses. China Spring with a 42-41 win over Melissa.
Did you see where Decatur nearly pulled the upset on on Wichita Falls Rider?
Yeah. That's
Coach Huff coming from College Station, and Nate Palmer, the 2024 running back, now they're at Decatur. That's a pretty good indication of the direction of that program.
They have a big one coming up this weekend. I'm forgetting the
Rider?
Exact matchup. No, Decatur.
Oh.
But
Rider's got Lubbock Coronado.
Yeah. Well, and shoot, if I'm looking out for some teams that made some statements, Lancaster, the 2-0, and they take on Geyer this week. So you find out a little bit more about them. Waxahachie is a team I'm watching that they've really put it on some programs, Ennis and Arlington Lamar, to start the season. I think that's a team to watch out for there. South Lake and Highland Park are doing what South Lake and Highland Park are doing. Those are some of the big things that caught my attention.
Yep. Well, week 3 here. I'm going to start tomorrow at Woodforest Bank. Actually, again, today. We're recording this on Wednesday. I still can't get my brain to function.
I know.
And say that properly. But Thursday night, Woodforest Bank Stadium, I'll be there. Conroe Oak Ridge against the Woodlands. Big rivalry there. The Woodlands bounced back nicely after their open. I know they didn't play up to their standard against North Shore. North Shore is the standard in the city of Houston for a lot of teams. But they bounced back with a nice win over Houston Lamar last week, and then now get to take on a really talented Conroe Oak Ridge team led by 2024 linebacker Justin Williams, who you and I are both extremely high on as a player and as a prospect. And so from there, going to Southeast Texas, got to do some family stuff, but also getting a chance to see 2024 Sealsby standout Draylon Miller, the Tigers in the top 10, I believe, in 4A Division II. And they're going to be it's the first time I've covered Nederland games, which is where I grew up when I went to high school, but I've never covered a game in Nederland. So this will be my first time going back home and covering a game in my hometown. So that'll be fun. Really excited to see Draylon Miller, who has done it all so far for the Tigers at safety, at corner, at running back, and at wide receiver. So he's a do-it-all kid. And like I said, like Justin Williams, at Oak Ridge, I think, Jason, you and I are extremely high on Draylon Miller. But that's my weekend.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll be at that Denton Geyer Lancaster game on Thursday. See a battle of unbeaten. See some top-notch defensive backs and Peyton and Eli Bowen, and Lancaster, a standout 2024 Corian Gibson, who also has a Texas A&M offer there. And then on Friday night, I'll be in Arlington at Choctaw to see
the ballpark in Arlington.
I do. I love it, man. That's one of my favorites. I don't think the sight lines are necessarily great for high school football, but man, walking out onto that field always just feels awesome.
I still can't call it Choctaw. It's the ballpark in Arlington.
Well, I get to see Toviano and Senna again, and then Zena Umazula and Davon Mitchell. So get a chance to get out there. But shoot, are there any other big games you want to highlight?
Oh, well, Spring Westfield against North Shore.
Yeah,
that is a giant one. Like,
it
is. I've said it. Like, is there a closing of the gap between Katy and North Shore and the rest of the field. Well, maybe this year it's just North Shore in the field because we saw Katy and Atascocita go, toe-to-toe. Can Westfield, who beat North Shore last year, can they do it back-to-back years? I don't know how many teams across the state of Texas could say that when John Kay's been the head coach at North Shore, that they've beaten the Mustangs in back-to-back seasons. Spring Westfield will have the opportunity to do it this week. I think it would take a monumental effort, but they can do it. They're certainly talented enough to do it. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that one.
Well, I got an interesting one up here in Lake Belton and Red Oak. 2 undefeated.
Yeah. Micah Hudson has been awesome.
Micah Hudson. And then on the other side, another Texas A&M offering a 2025 class, Taz Williams, who's a big-time playmaker to keep an eye on. You got the Battle of Frisco with Lone Star and Reedy. La Vega going to Midlothian Heritage. 2 big powers there in the smaller schools. Denton Ryan trying to get back on track there at Azle. Had their game canceled last week and dropped that opener to New Braunfels. So I know they're hungry to get back out there on the field. And then on Saturday, you got South Oak Cliff at DeSoto. That's I got a feeling both teams got a bad taste in their mouth after last week, and it should be a lot of fun.
2 teams to keep an eye on. I'm wondering how good they are. A&M Consolidated, which I think they're pretty good, and they're playing very well. They've got Lufkin coming to town this week. I don't know that their district schedule is going to test them a huge amount. So I've got my kind of a pin in A&M Consolidated to see how good they are. They're currently number 3 in Class 5A Division I. And a school that I'll actually be visiting on Friday that I've gotten a ton of good reports from the area about, Port Arthur Memorial. Coach Brian Morgan's got a squad this year. It's a lot of underclass talent. I had a guy call me and say, this might be the fastest team he's had in a while. When you say that about a Port Arthur Memorial team, that's saying something. So really interested to get down there and at least interact with that group, but also follow their season because now they're 5A Division I Region 2, Jason, which is Region 2 is your neck of the woods. So the benefit is if they win this district down there or win the district down there in Southeast Texas, they're going to have Dallas teams traveling to Port Arthur in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, which I think is pretty important if you're looking to make a run. When you have that kind of drive ahead of you, I think that would be a huge deal for them and their chances at making a run to the state championship.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I always love to see those Titans do well, too.
Yeah. All right. For Jason Howell, I'm Ryan Brauninger. That's the TexAgs High School Football Show for Week 3. Don't forget, we're presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. For anything you need throughout the Texas high school football season, on the road, stop by Academy. They got what you need to get you covered and get you out there under those Friday night lights. Like I said, for Jason Howell, I'm Ryan Brauninger. Thank you guys for tuning in.